Sarvana Namaskar, a very good morning to one and all. I, Anshul Goyal, Joint MD, Film City, welcome you all to this session. Pleasure to welcome our Honorable Minister of State, Shri Rajendra Patil Yadgaonkar, as our guest of honor. I extend a warm welcome to Ma'am Kalyani Ma'am, Joint Secretary, Ministry of INB, Government of India, Shri Saurabh Vijay, Secretary, Department of Cultural Affairs, Government of Maharashtra, Mrs. Manisha Verma, Managing Director, Film City, Shri Vikramjit Roy, Head Film Facilitation Office, our esteemed panelists and participants joining us on various platforms like YouTube and Facebook. I thank all of you present here on this beautiful morning for the first session of our 3-day policy discourse webinar, Panorama, Envisioning Film and Media Entertainment Policy for Maharashtra. The Maharashtra Film Stage and Cultural Development Corporation Limited, located at Dadasaheb Phalke Film City, was established in 1977 as a Government of Maharashtra undertaking to promote and accelerate cultural activities in the field of cinema, dramatics, folk art, and other performing arts. Since then, the corporation has been actively engaged in pursuance and propagation of its objectives. Dear friends, the Indian film and media entertainment sector, with its consistent growth over the past 2 decades, is expected to grow to around 23,500 crores by 2021. In terms of the sector's potential, its contribution to the country's GDP, the direct and indirect employment it generates, it becomes important for a state like Maharashtra, which is the entertainment colossus of India, to come up with a policy that not just retains its leading position in the country, but also attracts domestic and international players in the sector. Our vision through this policy webinar is to establish Maharashtra as the film and media hub to the world, providing world-class opportunities and infrastructure, with a focus on nurturing its regional cinema. And hence, the theme for the first session is making Maharashtra a global filming destination. I would now request our moderator for the session, Shri Chenoy, to kindly take.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Ms. Anshul Goyal, Joint MD, for those opening remarks. May I now invite the Managing Director, Ms. Manisha Verma, to give her opening remarks. Ms. Verma, please.
So, Mr. Chenoy, I would have already in the beginning extended a warm welcome to all the panelists. I think because we have our formally inaugural session for which we will have to now keep a buffer time. Without wasting any further time, I would request you to start the panel discussion with the panelists who have already joined. As our Honorable Minister of State joins it, we could give him the platform to give his good wishes. And now we come back to this group during the open house.
Thank you.
Us to keep the time. Yeah, we would be able to keep the session on time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, if that is the session, and we'll take everybody's concurrence that whenever the minister joins, he will just make a few remarks of greeting. So let me actually then get an industry stakeholders perspective on the discussions, and just in interest of time and because we have a hard stop before 12:15, if you could just keep your perspectives brief for 4 to 5 minutes. And if I could actually start with Ms. Monika Shergill of Netflix to share her perspective on how we take this forward and really ensure that Maharashtra continues to thrive as a center of film and entertainment going forward. So, Ms. Shergill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chenoy. Very happy to be here with all of you today. And good morning. I'm Monika Shergill, and I lead the content team of Netflix India. And it's a great opportunity to be able to be here today and share our inputs in this policy workshop. since we are all such an entertainment-loving nation. Sorry?
Monika, go ahead. Just go ahead. Sorry. Nachiket, if you just mute yourself, please. Thanks.
Yeah, we are all an entertainment-loving nation. We have a long history of storytelling and filmmaking in the country. And I think all of us here know that we make more than 1,800 films a year. We make about 200,000 hours of television every year in the country. So we are aware of how the film and TV business contributes to the entertainment economy in the country. So I really want to take the few minutes that I have to impress upon the panel and everyone of the most important and the nascent growth segment, which is the streaming business segment, and how that has the potential to really contribute. So with the increase of the, with the growing internet and the device ecosystem that we have, industry experts are already predicting up to 550 million online video consumers joining us in the next 2 years. The revenue is projected to be at 10,600 crores and growing from there on. And this is just over the next 2 years. By 2025, we are supposed to be 1 billion devices, and therefore the entire country almost is going to be connected through online devices. And that's the potential that we are talking about. We already have 60 plus streaming services in the country, and which is, of course, one of the highest in the world. And also, Indians are supposed to be the biggest consumers of online entertainment. So when we really look at the streaming business in the country, what we are looking at is a tremendous appetite that we have to feed for fresh stories, for films, for long format series, and for all kinds of curated content. So with Netflix, I'd like to share with everyone, we came into the country about 5 years ago. Mumbai is our home. We love being in Maharashtra and filming our, films and series here. And as we look at the streaming landscape, the kind of productions of the scale and the volume that we are looking at, if I were to just give you the numbers, just in the last 3 years since Netflix started producing original content, we have rolled out 40 productions we've launched on the service between films and series. We've announced 20 more. And these are all productions of scale with many, many days of filming, large crews, and a tremendous amount of job creation. So if we just look at the entire streaming landscape and the number of services and all the services that are actually making content, we can just do a basic mental math and see what potential this industry has to partner and to contribute and to grow the entertainment economy of the state and the country. Also at Netflix, what we regularly do is that besides wanting to provide great entertainment, we also want to really partner with the industry. So we are constantly engaging in upskilling workshops. We bring in a lot of experts and we do talent workshops, we do technology workshops, we do writing workshops. All of this because what we create in India has to be watched by the world. It has to be loved by India and it has to be watched by the world. So therefore, upskilling the talent pool and growing the talent pool here and really partnering in scaling the industry and working with all our other streaming partners to really contribute to the economy is something which is very, very important to us. So I think it's a great opportunity to be here and to be able to share our recommendations of how we can make world-class content, in the state as well as the country, and also particularly where Mumbai and Maharashtra is concerned. What are the specific things that we can do to really, make Mumbai the destination for Indian and global filmmaking? So I just want to thank everyone, and I look forward to sharing the recommendations a little later in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Monika, for that opening statement. Very important for keeping time created in India, loved in India, and viewed by the world. Right. So now may I invite Mr. Nachiket Pantvaidya, who is the CEO of Balaji Telefilms and CEO of Alt Balaji. to share his initial opening statement, please. Nachiket, over to you.
Well, we've been a traditional television production house, which is now pivoted to join the streaming race in more ways than one. We have a movies production business. We, of course, produce about 1,000 hours of television. And we also run a much less expensive platform than Netflix called Alt, and we basically address people who can't afford to spend a lot of money to pay for streaming services in India. Our basic 2 or 3 issues, for this debate, which you'd like to bring to the fore. One is that there always is a dichotomy between producing for India and producing for the world that has traditionally, been the mindset in India. You say that if you go to produce internationally, uska kuch aur scale hona chahiye. If you go to produce in India, there's a different budget, there's a different scale, and I think that dichotomy is slowly reducing. I think we have got a global customer in every pocket of India today, whether it is Sangli, Mumbai, or somewhere outside the state. And I think that dichotomy needs to be bridged, and that is something that as an industry we have to address. That's point one. Point two is I feel that while we say streaming is a way of delivering entertainment, there seems to be a huge shift from collective viewing to individual viewing on the mobile phone. Today, even as a follow-up of the COVID epidemic, cinema is also being released on these streaming platforms. What happens, therefore, is that instead of 4 people going and watching, say, a television serial in front of a television set or going to cinema theaters, everybody has their own mobile phone and they're watching individually. And our research shows that Indians tend to behave very differently when they're individuals as they tend to behave when they're in a group. And I think that's the second issue that we'd like to bring up for discussion in terms of the creative platform that we need to create for this individual digital viewing that seems to be the growing trend. And the third and probably the most important aspect that we like to talk about is how do we open up the talent pool, especially the young talent pool of in the production and the creative ecosystem, to a wider variety of people just outside Mumbai. Today, 95% of all work is done in Mumbai, but there are destinations in Maharashtra which have been traditionally strongholds of the filmmaking process, like Kolhapur. Probably even, how do you expand beyond places which are just metro-centric and cost a lot of money in terms of real estate to produce. So these are the 3 issues that I feel will be interesting to talk about in the course of today's panel.
Thank you, Nachiket. Really bridging the dichotomy, individual customization, and actually creating an ecosystem for getting a production and creative talent pool. I think very valid points. It's now my pleasure to actually welcome Ms. Guneet Monga, producer Sikhya Entertainment, better known for producing the internationally acclaimed Lunchbox. So, Guneet, over to you, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Lena, and the whole team for organizing this. It's an incredibly important discussion to have. Just a brief introduction about Sikhya and my work is that, I have mostly produced independent movies with younger talent, with first-time directors, with first-time actors. I have, I kind of call myself on being on the periphery of Bollywood, being an outside-inside approach. In my span of producing for the last decade and a half, we've managed to produce more than 40 films, more than 70 short films. As a company, we've had 7 films at Cannes, selected at Cannes. We've had 10 plus movies at Toronto, 4 at Venice International Film Festival, 7 at Sundance. And our work has been BAFTA nominated and Oscar. 2 of my shorts have been Oscar nominated with 1 win. So been continuously, working and looking at projects by absolutely younger talent, nurturing talent and putting it out there. I feel that there is a lot that, and of course, being in Maharashtra, living in Bombay, I feel that there is a lot of work that can be done at the much needed space of where people need to enter. Um, beginning from education, beginning from having more producing courses, beginning from to expand to expand the market. I do feel like the larger Bollywood has a lot more access. I do feel like the independent community, there can be a conversation on building more structures that can allow more and more people to enter, hence creating employment, hence expanding the market. I think it's an incredible time in the Indian film and TV history right now, with the surge of OTT, with international players coming to India like Netflix and Amazon and Disney, and with incredibly strong Indian players also. I feel like every niche in India is also so big that it forces itself to have more and more talent in the market. But how do we groom them? How do we, and the talent that can actually represent the country outside India, how do we make that more and more, make it more easy for people to be able to travel, to be able to expand their knowledge, to be able to showcase the good work from India at a global scale and have more support. So I would love to talk more about that. And also, I think to build, even though we have single window, I do feel like still when people talk about film and TV in Maharashtra, in Bombay especially, to shoot, it still is seen as something which is highly money making, and it is still needs a lot of work where people say that it's much easier to shoot outside Mumbai. And I think it's important to address the elephant in the room, and how do we make that more easy and more accessible to shoot here, because this is our home, this is where we live. um, and an ambitious idea I'd like to throw of building a larger film hub, which I would love to talk about. More like having a New Zealand model, having models where one can have the best of VFX studios. I think we have incredible talent in India. I do feel that we need more structures here to help them grow in terms of education, in terms of post production, in terms of more studios. So we can dive into that with more ideas. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Guneet. Really, again, raise the issue of talent, making it easy, and creating a film hub, and adding production houses. So, well, thank you for those initial remarks. And now, may I request Mr. Dilip Singh Rathore to share his experience of working with the government of Maharashtra. Actually, he's found it or made it easy. His inputs would be much valuable to make Maharashtra a global filming destination. So, Dilip, please. You're on mute and we can't see you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, hi everybody. And first of all, thank you for inviting me on this incredible panel. I'm very happy to be here and meet you all and share my experiences working here in Bombay last year. We had incredible experience, and I know we all are coming out of this crazy pandemic and all are dying to be back on the set and make movies, which we all love the most. It's been a difficult time for last 1 year, but we've been thinking about making Maharashtra the global filmmaking destination. So I can share with you my personal experience that last year we came here and I made a film here in Bombay almost 7 years back called Heartbeats. So experience I had 7-8 years back and experience I had last year, of course, with the help of Maharashtrian government and INB ministry and FFO and all of that, it made a incredible change in the experience I had from last time and last year. Last time means like 6-7 years back and last year. This kind of production wouldn't have been possible. This kind of large production wouldn't have been possible without the help of the government machinery. We always talk about bringing the big production, making India and Maharashtra and all, the international filming destination. And bring those large films. And we cannot do all this without the help of government machinery and with the help of how the government participate in bringing these films and making everything possible what the director wants. When we came here, when we were thinking about shooting in Bombay, biggest question was how the hell are we going to achieve what Christopher Nolan wanted. And we were trying to propose other cities and stuff, but he has seen Bombay. He was here and he very much wanted to shoot in Bombay and capture the ambience and the madness and beauty of Bombay. I mean, I was like thinking, and I met Mr. Roy that time, and we applied for the permission and stuff. And with the help of Maharashtra government, with the help of local machinery, with the police, and how they actually put everybody in the Mr. Gagrani, the chief secretary at that time, principal secretary, he got everybody in a single room, introduced the director, introduced the filmmaker, and the challenges of shooting that film in Bombay. And from there on, everything became, kind of start falling in place. With he brought all the stakeholders like traffic, BMC, and everybody. So what I'm trying to say is, like, this kind of film can only be achieved with the government help. This kind of projects also bring the great positives. Like we had almost 1,600 crew working on the film. We had so much employment. We spent almost nearly $10 million in the city for just 7 days of shoot. So you can imagine the impact, financial impact, that we had so many crew which were trained in the international best practices to how to work on these kind of larger films, which also, like, is a training school for those people. And to handle these kind of big films, we still have a long way to go. We still face challenges, and I agree with Guneet when she says that when we talk about a single window, we still have to go a long way. We still have to see that those rules and regulations are implemented. We do really get the single window permissions and stuff. We still face a lot of issues with, local unions and, people who are trying to make life difficult for the filmmakers like this. Small films, I understand every film, should be supported, but nobody's going to come when they're going to have these kind of challenges. I want to talk further more about how we can resolve this. And I see a world of difference from my last experiences and last year when I shot a Tenet. And in the end, I want to say that Mr. Nolan and Warner Brothers went with amazing experience. They were very happy. They, in fact, wrote letters. They have given credits, and they want to come back. And it was great for me because when I was shooting Batman Dark Knight Rises in Jodhpur, I had some issues again. But last year, everything we achieved what the director wanted with the help of the government of Maharashtra. So we want to make this further is what is case study and make it more, studies like this, and want to make sure that major films like this can be done in the similar way and better. We can improve from there on, and they go back with a great experience.
Thank you so much, Dilip, for that, and sharing your amazing experience. And actually, in your address, you talked about a single window, but getting everybody in a single room and a one-shot kind of a thing to attract that kind of investment into Maharashtra. And we'll come back to your specific suggestions a bit later. Let me now invite Mr. Uday Singh, who's the India Head Motion Pictures Association. Of course, he also coaches the Sikhya Film Forum. Mr. Uday, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Dilip, and thank you to the government of Maharashtra for organizing this timely session, a workshop, because I think we have an opportunity now to actually take the, as I keep saying, the K curve, especially for film industry, as the industry revives and gets back, back on its feet. I think the way I would approach it is that Maharashtra has everything going for it. Maharashtra has, as people have said before me, world-class crews, highly capable people and infrastructure to be able to deal with it. The whole thing is, how do we now join the global chain, and how do we manage this whole process in a way where it becomes very easy? Like we used to say earlier, simplify, incentivize, and promote. That was the three-step formula that we had been recommending. I would now even say measure that. So the whole idea of having a film facilitation office itself Simplifying it has shown the results. We've seen how that process has helped Tenet. What Dileep mentioned about Tenet, I think what we need is that to get institutionalized in a very systematic way to be able to simplify productions that come in. I think the benefit would be twofold. One is inbound productions that which are coming from outside outside India, and the other would be the runaway productions which are moving out of Maharashtra to go to other neighboring states to be able to shoot or even abroad. I think we have to retain those productions here, because if we have everything that what Maharashtra has to offer, then we need not go outside. If the process was simple and if there was incentives and there was a good knowledge of how we can shoot here without actually going through so much of red tape. Dilip also demonstrated how for Tenet we move from red tape to red carpet. It shows that good stories also travel far, and I think that experience will help a great deal. But having said that, let me give you a little bit of an insight into where the world is at this point in time. This is a very, very competitive space when it comes to where people want to shoot. And I think the bigger elephant in the room is this eye of the SIP process, the incentive process. People are led in a large part assuming that the script is flexible and the locations are flexible to go where the incentives are. And I think what we have going for us is a cost arbitrage, because every dollar is equal to 73. We have world-class crews. A lot of the VFX and facilities are happening out in Bangalore. So there is already an inbound production happening out of here. How do we leverage that? How do we change that around to be able to take advantage of the opportunities here, K-curve, and get the film industry growing faster than other sectors in the economy? I think once we have the coming in at the federal level, what we also need to look at structurally is champion sector initiatives at the state level, which actually will identify strategic sectors and then incentivize those sectors to be here. The benefit is that people travel vicariously through the movies, and that's the way they will get attracted more and more. I mean, anywhere I go, anywhere I have gone across the world, everyone knows Bollywood. I think the brand is well established, and people sing the songs, people know the movies. The soft power is incredible. So I think what we need to do is have Maharashtra leverage that on a global scale much better than we have been able to do in the past. What is the opportunity like? Last of 2019, $177 billion was spent on screen productions across the world. $177 billion. 65% of this investment in the United States. 40% of that investment was outside of the United States, that is where the opportunity lies. And those productions have gone, only about 14% of that was in Asia. I think that's where the opportunity lies for us to be able to say that, we put a flag in the ground and say we have incentives, we have simplified procedures, and we are, because of the cost benefits that we have, to be able to attract more productions. That would be my opening points, Dilip.
Thank you so much, Uday, for that, and really saying that script and location are actually flexible and they just actually follow incentives. And we have it going in Maharashtra, and how do we take it forward? I just want to check, and before we go on, whether Firdos has joined us from the Film Federation of India, Mr. Firdosul Hassan, President of the FFI. Are you there? I don't see you actually on the call. So, yeah, he's not joined, no, yet. So, okay. So, what I think we have also representatives and from the center as well as the state, right? And we'll get a perspective from them before I come back to the industry with specific questions. I would like to begin with Ms. Kalyani, who is having the important responsibilities of Joint Secretary Films and also Managing Director of NFDC. I would request you to please share your views on the policies at the central level to promote film shooting and co-production. Ms. Kalyani. Ma'am, you'll have to unmute if you're listening to me.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me? Yes. Good morning to all of you. It was very interesting to hear perspectives from Netflix and Ms. Monga. It's good to put the face behind the name of Lunchbox. I'm really very glad, Mr. Rathore, we met when you were shooting Nolan and others here. I'm grateful to Manisha for having me here in this session on making Maharashtra a global filming destination. Not to forget that the center also plays a major role in getting the permissions from the central ministries for the filming, even if it is in Maharashtra. Mr. Rathore forgot to mention that one of Mr. Nolan's dreams of aerial shooting was facilitated by the Central Ministry of Defense. So, which happened in a matter of 2 days. So it's not that government is always laggard. Government always works when it needs to work, I guess. So be that as it may, let me congratulate the Maharashtra government for organizing this webinar at a very crucial time. Maharashtra is yet to open the theaters for filming, so I'm sure that this would give a perspective on how we go about where do we release the films and how do we go about it. Aside from that, what I would expect from the center, from the state government for making Maharashtra a global filming destination, my perspective, of course, would be for making India a global filming destination, because I'm very fond of telling, foreign film producers that whatever you need, you have it here. You just need one visa. Whether you want the mountains, whether you want the seas, you want the islands, you want the people, you want the skyscrapers, you name it, we have it all here. So that has been my mantra that I've been telling all the foreign film producers, that you just need one visa, the film visa, to come and film in India. Whatever location that you want, it is available in the country. Aside from that, I would like Maharashtra to, the Maharashtra government per se, to integrate with the Film Facilitation Office, because, the FFO is the external face, because FFO facilitates the permission for filming in India. So let this be, I had discussions with Manisha when I was in Bombay a couple of weeks back. I said that there should be a seamless kind of an integration from the FFO portal, because you see the application for permission for shooting in India per se from foreign producers comes through the FFO. So back end, I would like the integration to be seamless. So if that can be taken forward, this needs to be done. And also on your filming portal, if we can have a list of line producers who would be interested in, facilitating the foreign productions for co-productions or even for filming in India. A list would be very useful, because as on date on the FFO portal, we've only put the co-producers, line producers whom where NFDC has facilitated. But if it would help if you can kind of sort out from amongst your line producers, and depending on the caliber and capacity of the line producers, so that would help in generating additional revenues, so that the information is readily available. So I would request the Maharashtra the Film Development Corporation to have this in your website, so that we can provide the link in the FFO website, so that any foreign producer who's looking for line producers to facilitate the productions, that can be taken care of. For ease of filming on the ground, I would like the state film cell and the nodal officers to support the filmmakers in the permission process of the state and clear timelines. I was told by Manisha that Maharashtra has started imposing strict timelines. It's a very welcome note in the process. Comprehensive permission from the film nodal agency, so that you see, so that the filmmaker doesn't have to keep going to different locations. So that should be able to help, and also that the state film cell should be flexible enough to help in any last minute changes. Coming on incentives, Mr. Uday Singh had mentioned that incentives play a long way in it. While the government of India will be announcing the champion services sector, I mean, COVID has really put a spoke in the finances, but I would also urge Maharashtra to give promotional incentives come through to the Film Bazaar. This time the Film Bazaar of NFDC's Film Bazaar as part of IFFI from 16th to 24th is on the online mode. So we can collaborate and, we can have marketing, sharing locations and other incentives that we can give. And also, the integration of the talent with the state efforts, we need to do that also, because Indian film stars, like one of the panelists was speaking, enjoy tremendous popularity on an international scale. So we should be able to leverage that and take that thing forward. And also on the COVID, one can't but not speak about it. We would, I would urge the film industry to be an economic driver, because when we opened when we allowed the halls to be open with 50% capacity, one of the feedback that came was there is no content, there is no fresh content. So perhaps we need to take this up, and also how best we can set up screens. I was just talking to I was just talking to somebody yesterday who was saying that in Maharashtra, I understand that there is a proposal for converting your bus stations into, for having small screens in the bus stations. So we need to increase the theatre density also. So whether that kind of, new innovative ways of increasing the theatre density, whether that can be facilitated. But then another task for the government would also be that if you need about 27 to 30 permissions for setting up, the screen, a theatre, then that process also needs to be looked into and perhaps streamlined and reprocessed, so that maybe we could have a single window for setting up a screen also. So with these, I conclude my comments. Thank you all for having me here, but I look forward to the recommendations from this so that we can take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kalyani ji. And at this point of time, we see that the Honorable Minister has joined us. We see him there. First of all, very Adaniya Mantri ji, आपका बहुत स्वागत है. May I now request the Managing Director to please make a short opening statement, and then we will take it on from there. Over to you, Ms. Manisha, please. You're on mute, ma'am. Yes.
First of all, I would again like to extend a very warm welcome to all the panelists now. I think now we are in full strength. I have been listening very, very keenly to all your important suggestions, and more than the opening remarks, I am really looking forward for the second round of the discussions where your concrete suggestions would be coming in. Before that, I would also like to welcome our Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Cultural Affairs, Shri Rajendra Patil Traukar sir. I would request the esteemed panelists. I think it was Guneet ji who raised this point of that she's already conducting producing courses, and she was mentioning that she would be interested in giving suggestions for creation of some kind of a film hub. I think it was Mr. Nachiket who raised the points about the dichotomy between, reconciling the content creation for an Indian audience vis-a-vis the global audience. And I would be very interested to know whether the government can facilitate to bridge this gap and the challenges that you have raised, both about this issue as well as another important issue that you raised was that we would like to, not remain metro-centric for filming, and we would like to move out of the metros to other areas. And you mentioned about Kolhapur, where we need to build up more infrastructure, and there are other possibilities for other locations as well for Maharashtra to make it more cost-effective filming destination as well as for the media entertainment sector as a whole. I think ma'am Kalyani ji raised very, very important points. I would like to update her that we've had round of discussions regarding your suggestion for seamless integration with FFO portal for filming permissions. Our state NIC director and his team and the FFO portal technical team has been coordinating very closely because as I had mentioned to Madam in my earlier discussions also, that Maharashtra has already created a very comprehensive single window platform for filming, but obviously it is the GOI who will be the first port to coordinate for all the central ministries when it comes to international producers. And that is why we'll be working very closely and we will ensure that this integration with the FFO portal of our state portal happens well in time. I would also I would have a discussion with Ma'am separately on her suggestion of putting a list of line producers on the website, because we would then not want to be, seen as a government corporation favoring and recommending few against the others. So I think this is a concern that has been there with my predecessors on this suggestion, and we can deliberate on it further. I think one of the panelists raised the issue of complexity and multiplicity of permissions and authorities, which remains a challenge. We have tried to address it with the single window system recently. Since last few months, this pilot has been done in Mumbai region. Now we are coordinating to roll it out in the rest of the states. But I suppose that in some areas this problem remains, and we are coordinating with both the Urban Development Department, the Bombay Municipal Corporation authorities, as well as the Home Department, because as you understand that we are just a coordinating platform for this, and these the competent authorities are with other departments. I'm very grateful that Shri Bhuchan Gagrani sir, who is our Principal Secretary Urban Development and was earlier also Principal Secretary of Culture, is there, and he has been listening to this session very keenly, and we will take some of your suggestions forward. With these initial response, I would now request our Minister of State Shri Rajendra Patil Yetraukar sir to this seminar. आज आम्हाला माहिती आहे की आज आपला कॅबिनेटचा रिशेड्यूल झालेला आहे आणि तरी आपण वेळ काढून आमच्या सेमिनार मध्ये उपस्थित राहिल्या प्रमुख पाहुणे म्हणून त्याच्यासाठी मी आणि माझी आणि सर्व पॅनलिस्ट आपण या पॅनल साठी आणि वेबिनार साठी आपली शुभेच्छा द्या.
सर्व ह्या वेबिनार मध्ये ज्यांनी पार्टिसिपंट जे केलेले आहेत त्यांचं मनापासून या ठिकाणी स्वागत करतो. भारतीय चित्रपट रंगभूमी विकासामध्ये मुंबई ही नेहमी अग्रेसर आहे. त्या क्षेत्रातील कौशल्य संधी ह्याबाबत मुंबईने कायमच महत्वाची भूमिका बजावलेली आहे. तंत्रज्ञानाच्या वाढत्या प्रभावामुळे चित्रपट व माध्यमांच्या क्षेत्रात वेगाने बदल होत असल्याने आपल्याला ह्या बदलाची दखल घेणे ही अपरिहार्य आहे. चित्रपट रंगभूमी ही अर्थव्यवस्थेचे सुद्धा मोठा भाग ठरू लागला आहे असून ह्या क्षेत्रातल्या विकासाची शक्यता निर्माण होऊ लागली आहे. त्याबाबत महाराष्ट्राने दिशादर्शक कार्य केलेले असून अनेक महत्वाचे उपक्रम राबवण्याचा महाराष्ट्राचा सहभाग राहिला. महाराष्ट्राने म्हणूनच या सर्वसमावेशक धोरण तयार करण्यासाठी म्हणून पुढाकार घेतला. म्हणून मी आमच्या व्यवस्थापकीय संचालिका मनीषा वर्मा यांचं खास करून या ठिकाणी अभिनंदन करतो आणि ज्या ज्या सदस्यांनी यामध्ये सहभाग घेतला त्या सगळ्यांचे विचाराचा त्यांनी जे विचार मांडले त्या सगळ्याच्या विचाराचा विचार करून एक सर्वसमावेशक धोरण निश्चितपणे ठरवलं जाईल. मी आपल्या सगळ्यांना ज्यांनी पार्टिसिपंट घेतलं त्या सगळ्यांचं मनापासून या ठिकाणी अभिनंदन करतो, स्वागत करतो आणि आपल्या ज्या सूचना असतील त्या निश्चितपणे ज्या स्वागतार्ह सूचना त्या सगळ्या धोरणामध्ये निश्चितपणे समावेश केला जाईल. एवढं मी आपल्याला या निमित्तानं अभिवाचन देतो. नमस्कार.
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Over to Manisha for doing an English version of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I would just like to sum it up in one sentence that our Honorable Minister has welcomed you all and assured on behalf of the government and the Department of Cultural Affairs that whatever suggestions would be coming forward from this webinar will be definitely integrated into a comprehensive policy, and government would seriously look at implementation of the same. So I think this is a very positive kind of assurance that we are hearing from our Honorable Minister. I would now request Mr. Chenoy to continue with take the panel discussion forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and at this stage, I would really request the panelists, because we do know the desirability of having world-class infrastructure. We do know that we are ourselves keen. I mean, the theme of the panel is to make Maharashtra into a hub of, a global hub for filming and this media entertainment sector. We want to create facilities and content which is world class. We would also like to understand what could be the right incentives designed so that we can actually promote the sector. And another important issue which has been raised by the panelists has been that this sector is a growing one, and we need to create a sustained pool of skilled manpower, human resource that needs to feed the sector. And but we do have issues about accreditation of skilled courses, recognition of degrees, and other such factors. So we are also keen as a department to look not only the development of our Goregaon film premises, but also to create the entire state and different locations as destinations, because of obviously the costs involved here. So all these issues, I think we would be very happy to hear concrete suggestions. And maybe after this webinar, we will again be reaching out one-on-one with you. And if you could also send us, our team will be reaching out for your written suggestions so that we could deliberate on in detail. This is first of our conversations, and obviously we want to really listen and be responsive. I can assure you that we have organized this seminar with a real commitment to make a difference and to create a positive ecosystem for the sector.
Yeah, I think Manisha also like to just say that the minister complimented you on organizing this seminar. My little knowledge of Marathi also made me understand that, and asked us to give all the suggestions to you so that the government could take it forward. But before we come back to industry, we have two more interventions. May I now invite Shri Saurabh Vijay, Secretary Department of Cultural Affairs, Government of Maharashtra, for his statement. He'll share the state level policies in progress and the way forward. Mr. Saurabh Vijay, please. To unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Vijay, you need to unmute. Mr. Saurabh Vijay, sir, can you hear us? If so, please unmute. We can.
I think another officer from his department, Mr. Vilas Thorat, is, I can see him logged in. आपल्याला काही बोलायचं आहे का विलास थोरातजी या संदर्भात? I think we can move on to the panelists. I think we can also request Mr. Bhushan Gagrani at this stage, given his vast experience all these years in this sector, to give his perspective.
That's what, ma'am. If I can get in Vikramjit Roy just before that, and then we'll go into. Okay, Mr. Gagrani, fine, sir. Let's go by your.
I think because today is a cabinet and all the senior officials are quite engaged. So I would request that we can have Mr. Gadrani first and then we can.
Yes, sir. So please, Principal Secretary, Urban Development, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for accommodating me in the morning session. I was supposed to be with you in the afternoon, but as usual, things keep changing. My compliments to Manisha and her entire team and all the participants in this August gathering. And this is very noteworthy that the film city, which supposed to expand its activities outside the film city, because it's a corporation fondly known as Film City. So it is really expanding by intervening and bringing all the stakeholders on the one platform. I think it's a beginning of the new initiative taken by the corporation. I compliment Manisha, Anchal, and all of you for that. There needs to be a single agency which will coordinate, understand the issues, and FICCI as usual is helping to get the feedback from the industry. Coming back to a few issues which I listened since morning, the world is changing very fast, the entertainment industry changing very fast. Regardless, we some or the other point require the support from the government, assistance from the government, and our role as far as the film corporation is concerned or the state government is concerned mainly is of coordinating the things, apart from, of course, the incentives and all those things which the central government is kind enough to provide. That needs to be streamlined a bit. However, here, as far as the state government is concerned, the matter boils down to coordination. And Mr. Thakur mentioned about the last year's experience of Christopher Nolan. Frankly, it's a one-sided love affair between me and Christopher. From my side, I'm in love with him. However, there is no response. Anyway, I'll keep trying. So that's a separate issue. But what the point I'm driving at home is, it should, whatever experience last time that international unit had, it should develop as a system. It should not happen that it's a one-off the affair and it should not be officer driven kind of a thing. There is great amount of understanding and sensitiveness amongst various government agencies, particularly state government agencies here about the films and Bollywood and entertainment. However, some catalyst is required to bring them together and define their duties. There is many, Mumbai has a typical problem that it's a multiplicity of agencies because it's a complex city. There are many authorities simultaneously working on the same area. So what you require is that proper coordination. And if that leadership is being provided by the Film Corporation or Film City with the help of Government of India, I think the constant repetition of last year's tenant should not be a big deal for a city like Mumbai or state like Maharashtra. At present, I'm working in urban development department where we regulate the various developments. So I just want to share a couple of things with you. We are coming up with small modification into our development control regulation by which any construction of temporary set outside Mumbai will not require government permission for 1 year. There are a lot of sets which have been constructed, particularly for the TV serials, and they go long for more than 6 months, 8 months, up to 1 year. So any unit or the company which is constructing the temporary film shooting stage outside Mumbai will not require any government permission up to 1 year. If it is going beyond that, of course, you will require the government permission. So that kind of modifications we are bringing into our control rules. There are issues of giving the status of Special Planning Authority to Film City. There is a issue of temporary construction within the premises of Film City and entire Film City development. There are issues of what is going to happen with the single screen theaters, and that policy is dealt by our department. So all these issues are there. I'm not going to take much of your time by sharing all these details. However, I assure you that the pragmatism as well as the understanding in the administration as far as the entertainment industry is concerned is adequately available. Only thing is that somebody needs to drive this thing at appropriate time and make everyone to work on these various projects which are coming up in the state of Maharashtra. The government of Maharashtra, the Mumbai, all of us are very committed to support entertainment industry. So I wish all the best to the today's initiative. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Bhushanji. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalyani, Principal Secretary, Urban Development. And that 1 year window for sets is very welcome. And I'm sure you'll find an innovative way if someone exceeds 1 year, how to extend that permission. So thank you. And if a one-sided love affair can get you $10 million a day, please keep at it. I think it's very important, and we need officers like you to take it forward. So thank you for joining. And may I move to Mr. Vikramjit Roy. Please, you play a very important role here. So over to you.
Thank you, and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you to the MFSCDC for having us in this discussion. When you talk about making Maharashtra a global destination, Dilip, I'd like to look at a macro and a micro picture. I'll keep it short. At a macro level, I think there's a requirement to look at both the supply side and the demand side of the film industry, where strategic interventions are required. The supply side primarily is capacity building, be it in skill, be it in terms of education, be it in terms of infrastructure, and of course, market efficiency, which is ease of doing business. From a demand side, there is a requirement to support the creation of IP. Today, a filmmaker like Chaitanya Tamane has shown the kind of talent and the depth of talent that there is in the indigenous Marathi film industry. And so therefore, the support of IP, the support of production, co-production, both at a local level, at an international level, is absolutely required to push Marathi cinema, not just Hindi cinema. Branding. We've at FFO have always believed that when you talk about branding, you're talking about a kind of scenario where the state is integrated in with filmmakers. With the Netflix, Amazons, we have Guneet and all these producers who are here today. I think there is a huge requirement for the state to go and pitch itself as a partner so that it can be integrated into the script. It is not just about a destination, but it's about how are you going to integrate with the filmmaker. One is the location aspect of it, ease of filming aspect of it, but how do you create this market efficiency? So there's a supply side and a demand side to it. I'll come into the FFO. I will not elaborate much because Kalyani ji has already given us a very clear perspective on that and set targets for us. Rest assured that the integration between the Maharashtra Film Portal and the FFO portal will be done soon. And I'm sure that after this webinar and this policy discourse of 3 days, we'll be back at the drawing board and looking at Manisha ji for her guidance. And I'm sure with Anshul ji's support, we'll be able to implement this very soon. I want to talk about the fact that since there is industry presence here, filmmakers can apply to the FFO, and there is a unified application form. And that unified application form is also linked to the various nodal officers or the nodal ecosystem that we've been able to create in India. Each state has a nodal department, and in the case of Maharashtra, it is the MFSCDC. So I would request both Manisha ji and Ashil ji to ensure that the people who actually run the Maharashtra Film Cell process the unified application form that the FFO has and make it easier for international filmmakers who wish to shoot in, and as well as domestic filmmakers who wish to shoot in Maharashtra. The FFO is open to domestic filmmakers too. When we talk about filmmakers, we're also talking about TV. Want to talk about the need, I think, where the MFSCDC, the Maharashtra Film Cell, must interact with the various productions that are happening in Mumbai and in Maharashtra and do testimonials, typically what in our parlance in the industry we call as the electronic press kit. These form beautiful testimonials, especially in the social media, and they don't come much at a cost. We at the FFO have found a lot of success in this, thanks to our integration with the line producers. I think a database of filmic resources, already spoken by Kalyani ji in terms of line producers, but there must also be a database of for cast and crew. A lot of times, international filmmakers come in, they're looking at various cast and crew, casting directors, cast members, crew members, both technical and non-technical, below the line, above the line. Services, I think services have such an important role to play, not only in the furtherance of the entertainment economy, but in the overall value addition to the economy. So I think post-production services, animation, VFX, these filmic resources, which is plenty in Mumbai, Maharashtra, Pune. I think building cultural hubs, building multiple hubs in terms of filming locations, like India has over 10 filming hubs. So I'm sure Maharashtra, there is Pune, Kolhapur, these can be developed as filming hubs. I think the overall strategic implication of making it a film destination comes into not only employment and revenue, but I think film tourism. That's a very, very important part of the impact of integrating with the film industry. And we at the FFO reiterate our support and help and integration with the Maharashtra state, and will be delighted to work very closely in trying to bolster the image and fill up the image of Maharashtra as a filming destination. My last thoughts would be that data. I think data mining in terms of how many films are coming in, television series, web series, so much of content happening, how many people they're employing, what are the kind of local spends. For example, when we did our data mining, from 80 odd international projects that have shot from 2016, a total number of projects that have shot in India are around 120, but we have data for 80. From these 80 which have completed production, we have concrete data for 65, and you'll be happy to know that around $52 million have come into the economy from 2016 to 2020 from these 65 international projects. If I were to kind of take that to the 80 projects, then that figure jumps to 64. So it's $64 million with over 20,000 people employed as cast, with over 8,500 people employed as crew, with over 1,000 odd film visas that have been issued. So it's very important to do data mining to understand the impact that the film destination or the state and the filming that is happening in the state has on the economy, so that it could be put in a right perspective and policy support from the competent authorities can be received. I'd like to end it at that, and I'm sure we'll have further discussions.
Thank you, Vikram. I know, I'd like to actually go back to the industry representatives, and there are literally 5 areas, so you can choose which ones you want to talk about or talk about all 5 briefly. First is, a lot of you have mentioned that you need support in terms of financial and regulatory issues, if you can touch upon that. Second, there have been 2 or 3 mentions of incentives. So what are the type of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives? What should be the criteria for eligibility? And what are international models that could be adopted? And, how do you design these? And then, of course, what is it that international production houses look for and what attracts domestic production houses? There are 2 different aspects here. And, we have different representatives here. We have OTT, films, there's also digital animation, VFX, a lot of other issues. So these are the 5 broad areas we'd like comments on. And if I can go back first to Mr. Dilip Singh Rathore, if you could come in first, please.
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much again. And again, I would like to thank Madam Kalyani and Mr. Gagran Roy, that without their support and how the things have changed for last few years from a ordinary experience to a very, very pleasant experience, and to achieve these kind of larger productions. And we, as On the Road India, we bring all international projects to India to shoot, and we shoot on various different parts of the country where INB plays a major role in clearing all the permission stuff, and then we come to the state to make all this really happen smoothly. And as Mr. Gagrani said, that we should not only make last year as one of the example, but we have to make it as a practice, so that any production, whether it's a large or a small production, any film producer thinks that his project is very important. We don't have to see that somebody bringing millions of dollars more important than a small film. Every film producer who comes to India and shoot and goes back should go back with a great experience, which brings, because people talk about there and their seminars there, and people should go back with a great experience. And when they hear great experience of shooting in India, they will come back, because India has great locations. We have great dollar value. I'm like $1 to 73, 74 rupees is a great incentive. Of course, we have great talent pool of crew. We have great crew here, which are as good as the international level crew. So, and also they get to learn from these big projects. So we have to make sure that all these areas, and we can talk further on that whether it's a custom clearance, or whether it's an INB ministry permissions, or a local permissions, or building the sets, as Mr. Gagnan said, like we build a set at the Gate of India for 7-8 days. So those temporary sets should be allowed to be built without much hassle, which we were allowed last year without any hassle, and we could do it. So all these things are very, very important for an international filmmaker to come here and shoot. When we are, like I'm based out of US, and here, and when we talk about how we can achieve those larger films, we are again working on a very large film, and they are, great challenges, like blocking the big street and making sure the stunts are happening. And, so we have to get the local permissions, and and of course, these big films make facility for local residents to, divert the traffic, or we work very closely with the local authorities. So those things should be, it's a cooperation and coordination between the government authorities, the center authorities, and a filmmaker, which, then make things happen with the help of the authorities. Another thing which is very important for these larger film productions is to, get these major permissions, like Madam Kalyani said about this helicopter. I'm like, it was a miracle. We couldn't have imagined, and otherwise Mr. Nolan would have gone with a bad experience what he had on Batman, that we couldn't get the helicopter. We got the initial permission. There was a glitch that we couldn't get the crew on, and in 2.5 days that was done. That kind of miracle we need in this country for that, larger productions. And they, it left a very positive impact and impression on Mr. Nolan particularly, and Warner Brothers, that they could achieve everything. So these are the main thing. Also, we have some issues with the local unions and local, people who have so many complicated unions for a larger film, and they create problems, and they have multiple permissions they ask for, which also confuses people, that you have to be a member, non-members. Those things also has to be sorted out at a government level, and those people have to be brought in the same room and see that they do not create those kind of hindrances for international projects and the local projects as well. So that is one of the main issues as well. Have to deal with the custom. Like when we come with these kind of projects, we come with a plane, airplane full of equipment, and that has to be cleared within a limited time, so we can shoot. Also, which can attract international filmmakers, film incentives, as we all are talking about, that there has to be some kind of, all the countries have different incentive, like Australia has, Canada has, and other part, like states in India also has it. So if we have some kind of incentive that can be based on the amount of number of days of the shoot, or amount of people, Indian crew employed, cast crew employed. So that also gives incentive to bring less foreign crew and employ more Indian crew, so they can get more incentives. Of course, the larger film will bring their larger crews, but the smaller films, they can look at the incentive, that what they're getting, how many, and they can also then shoot more days in India because they'll get more incentives on that. So these are the few points. Of course, we elaborate on that. If we sort out these hurdles with the permissions and getting incentives and making more ease of doing business, I think a lot more people will bring a lot more larger films, and which will be helpful in generating the employment, training the crews, and getting much more revenue for the state and the country.
Thank you, Dilip, for that. Cynthia, I just want to actually point out two things. I don't know many people know that actually FICCI runs the ATA Carne system. So with that you can actually bring in all equipment, etc., duty free against a bond to come in there. In fact, the IPL could not have taken place, and you would not have been able to watch the IPL if it is not for the ATA carnes issued by FICCI. So I think that also we could actually support there. The second thing which you talked about, and the new labor law reforms and the reforms that are going to be then followed up at the state level, that could actually provide an opportunity for the state to have a tripartite kind of a system where the government and the unions and industry sit together to address the union issues, because this was not addressable earlier, but you could actually look at that. So, Monika, when you were initially speaking, you said you had a lot of ideas and suggestions to come up. So this is it. This is the time for you to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Dilip. Actually, a lot of panelists have contributed a lot of suggestions already, and some of them are covered, but I would just like to summarize, some of them and expand on some from our perspective. As I said earlier, we are looking at any given point in time, there are multiple productions that are
yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you. So at any given point in time, the sheer number of productions that the streaming services, are engaged in is staggering, and it is only set to increase because of the demand. So I think the challenges we face are having the right kind of talent pool, and infra is a very, very big challenge. So, if I were to expand on that, there is technology available internationally, which we have also been considering of how to bring it to India and use to create actually live locations as set backdrop locations. So that you travel lesser, you use the studio infrastructure that you have lots. Just if I were to give an example, like you have many lots in Hollywood studios where you have the outdoor location where you actually use that location to create the kind of sets that you need, the outdoor live location sets and backdrops that you need. In the indoor floors, also studio locations. Now you have technology which you can create almost real, feel of live locations. So if we upgrade our infrastructure, so one is that we upgrade the existing infrastructure. And the second crucial point is that we increase the infrastructure. We actually go within Mumbai wherever we can to provide outdoor lots along with the studios that we have, and across Maharashtra where we have land, in the outskirts of Mumbai, etc., and other places like Nachiket had said earlier, and Guneet, that if we create those filming hubs, we can really ensure that a lot of productions, a lot of even work that we need to do elsewhere can actually, Maharashtra can become a catchment area for those shoots. Secondly, I think post and VFX infrastructure, everyone has said we have a great amount of talent pool in India, of artists and software people who, and India is seen as, a major Hollywood studios and projects look to India to do the VFX and animation work. There's no reason why we can't upskill and genuinely provide government support to create a very legitimate VFX hub in Mumbai, Pune, and wherever else we feel in Maharashtra. I think it's not only, it's not a desire, it's actually critical to do that, to really capture all the major production work that in the coming years can happen here. And I think just one more point on upskilling the talent pool. Like I said, at Netflix, we are very, very keen to partner with everybody to do that. We keep doing workshops. We've done workshops with the help of the government, with NFDC. So we are very happy to partner in courses to really, help support with the experts that we can bring. And lastly, a tactical point, I would say, we all talk about, rebates, etc. When we talk about rebates for shoots, which can be given to teams like Dilip had mentioned earlier and many others, to get more business here. I think besides rebates, what is also important, which we generally tend to forget, promising rebates and tax ops is important, but clearing them in a timely manner is very, very important. Invariably, what happens is that those things exist, but the timeline of clearing is so extended that the benefit doesn't transfer, and most people go to places where the timeline of clearing is lesser also. So I'd like to add that also amongst. Yeah.
Thank you, Monika, for those excellent suggestions, and I think very interesting points that you make. And Manisha ji, for your, for an idea for you arising out of Monika is that we should, that we are looking at three things here. Filming Hindi films in Maharashtra, filming Marathi films to the world, and getting global productions. I want to add a fourth dimension. How do we get, just to use words, Tollywood, the Tamil film industry, the Karnataka film industry, the West Bengal film industry, also to look at Maharashtra. How do you market yourself with the other states? That is another, element I'd like to actually put in there. And to Monika's point about the incentives, if you can think the policy can create, because once you create a policy and it is passed by cabinet and everybody else is easy to execute, you say that we'll create an escrow account, right? And we'll put in the money there, and the moment the data is all kind of validated, and to Vikramjit's point about creating this data mining effort, it will automatically go. So that is something which is very which also could be possible. But moving to really Nachiket, really again, you are doing both the aspects, Hindi and also Marathi, and you're doing it in multiple locations. So really like your inputs on financial, regulatory aspects, incentives, international models, or anything what you can share. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah. Go ahead.
To be honest, I think 20 years ease of doing business in Maharashtra itself has improved. I think 20 years ago, I was at a FICCI frames where the issues that were discussed were even more complicated. And I think we should stop discussing issues of ease of doing business on 4 hours like this, because it's like saying if you've got to, do mathematics, you've got to add. Of course, you've got to add. It's got to be easy. Humko dastaveez nahi bharne. We are in the business of, media and entertainment. So I think we spend 80% of our time saying that bureaucracy is too much. There are 4 forms. Helicopters can't fly. It's equally tough in the UK. It's equally tough in the US. You want to shoot in the US? I think it's like the 36th chamber of Shaolin. It's not easy at all. So I think we are quite okay on that respect. What I find alarming is that what is our single USP is that you can get a great looking film for half the cost. This was what kind of powered Infosys and T.C.A. and all the sectors ahead when they became a huge global force for software development. That's our calling card. You want to do the New Zealand model at 30% of the cost of New Zealand, do it in India. And I think if we can't market this strongly, Christopher Nolan is not filling forms. He's telling some person in his unit to fill forms. that person might give feedback later, but you first need to have Christopher Nolan to think of us as a place to come and film. For that to happen, you have to have that proposition marketed very clearly. When we started this process of having FICCI coming and doing media and entertainment, we were number 43 in GDP. Today we are number 7. We have to behave like a number 7 GDP country. And in fact, Maharashtra probably being the prime state in that number 7 GDP country. And for that, we've got to have a clear proposition. I'll give you the quality that anybody else gives you at international standard and at 50% of the cost. And it's extremely important to do that in the post-COVID era when everybody's searching for where the next income is going to come for. If we capitalize in the next 6 to 7 months to market ourselves better on a single focus point and not really think of, because we are playing catching up on the rest of the issues, and it's going to take us some time to competitively catch up while building studios, etc., and probably discover one, this cost competency, and secondly, discover labor competency in VFX. As you see, the topmost films in the world today are largely VFX led. They are not, location and shooting and then talking about track trolleys coming in. That's not how they're made. The biggest business in the world, part of that 177 billion that Uday Singh mentioned, is all special effects, and that's where we are good. Software is where we are good at. I think we should just stop trying to be competitive and trying to get physical infrastructure and straight focus on one, cost as a competency, second, VFX as a competency, and skip that race. Otherwise, we will be playing catch up. 10 years later, we will be still seeking कि यार 25 form है, 30 form है, 22 form है, इस policy का ये हो गया. But people are making films at half the cost. That's why they come to India. We have to assure the quality, and we've got to probably develop software as a competency where we are really good at. Otherwise, we're just playing catch up competitively. And that's my brief 5-minute recommendation.
Thanks, Nachiket. Basically, fundamentally, marketing, the VFX and cost arbitrage there. How do we get into the minds of the multiple Christopher Nolans here? I think excellent points, and go to where the puck is going to be rather than follow the puck, if I can use an analogy there. But I also want to share that many of you have raised this issue of skills, right? And FICCI also does also is on the board and runs the Media and Entertainment Sector Skill Council. And the chairman is actually Mr. Subhash Ghai, who's also from Maharashtra. So if we can collectively look at, creating, multiple centers of excellence, there was one proposed, there, and, again, have the AVGC policy. And of course, we proposed the film policy in 2015, and we are glad that this is happening. But again, I would now like to come in, since Nachiket, you mentioned Uday. So let me bring in Uday, if you can talk of some of the international best practices and how can we collate and how can we and also look at the national best policies and suggest to Maharashtra. Over to you, Uday.
Thank you, Dilip. As I mentioned earlier, that there is an opportunity there. There's a short arc opportunity and a long arc opportunity. Short arc is to how quickly can we use this sector to get back on its feet and to be able to jumpstart the economy and adding value to the economy, the economic impact that the industry could generate. And with the kind of streaming services and the kind of productions happening out there, clearly there's an opportunity to kind of get it quickly going. I would like to go one step back in terms of the arbitrage that was mentioned a little while earlier. I think cost arbitrage is definitely a point, case in point, but it could be a very temporary advantage. And I think the larger perspective here is how do we actually get into that supply chain, the global supply chain? How do we manage to get in there? And the talking point to be able to get in there is to say that we are open for business. Like he said rightly, like Nachi said rightly, it's ease of doing business should be a given. It's not something that should be. We are looking at. I think since you mentioned screen building, which we have as a later session, there are 110 different tasks to be accomplished before you can set up a screen in the state of Maharashtra, vis-a-vis Andhra, where it's redeemed clearance within 21 days. Even for film shooting in Gujarat, if you were to look at it, one note goes to all the police stations and all the local jurisdictions saying that the film is coming, and within 7 days you are allowed to shoot there, and it's a deemed clearance. What happens with the to be able to give that permission to shoot, right? So I think these are mechanisms that other states have done, and these are givens in other parts of the world. Some jurisdictions even have a smart card, which allows you to pop it anytime anybody intervenes and stops your production. You just show the card and you're allowed to continue with your shooting because that card gives you the permission. Right? Today we are talking of digital and mobile and so many opportunities that we have. How can we incorporate that in our processes in terms of easing the pains for the producer to be able to shoot that? While these are real world examples of problems that people face, I think simplification of everything, including like Monika mentioned, the clearance process of any incentive, is part of that whole idea that we are open for business. The second set of it is that the whole incentive plan, while we understand that we are not in a position to compete with the rest of the world, but it's important to put a flag out there saying that we are open for business, we are competitive, and we have great VFX capabilities within this country, and we are here and open for business. That allows you to join the global mainstream because those are often criticisms from an international point of view, or that India doesn't have incentives or a state doesn't have incentives. I think that's a counter argument that it allows us to kind of present out there. Third would be that the measurement. I think Vikram absolutely said it well, that the measurement, not just the data mining aspect of it, but also to look at the patterns and understand from those patterns and the benefits, that what are the economic impact within the economy. We have seen in jurisdiction after jurisdiction. If you look at Canada, for example, how did they manage to get the productions out of the United States? Not just that they were on the same timeline. Vancouver was on the same time as LA, but they managed to get about $2.8 billion in FDI. This is an absolutely wonderful source of FDI coming into the economy. It also brings in jobs. It's also bringing high skilled people who actually get a higher wage than other sectors. So I think if you look at it much more strategically from a longer arc, you would see that these kind of strategic interventions would actually help a great deal. I would not like to underscore that what we mentioned about promotion. I think it's a very important destination, and the promotion of that destination is extremely important, right? Because that's how people get awareness about it. I mean, I remember about film tour year for the film Knife of Pi, right? And I remember that there were about 200,000 people who landed up in China wanting to go to Pondicherry where the Life of Pi had been shot, and we didn't have a Chinese speaking and translating person at our desk out there. It's a lost opportunity. So a film actually brings in so many other added benefits, direct and indirect. I think to tap that and to see that whole ecosystem and see the measurement is very, very important. And we've seen in jurisdiction after jurisdiction, and on average, every dollar that you're in film production gives you a return of between $7 to $14. You can see that's why states are getting competitive now. I think at last count, Vikram will bear me out, maybe I think 14 to 16 states have some form of incentive to be able to attract productions out there. So why is that Bengal film not coming to Maharashtra? Because the local state is giving them incentives to stay there in some shape or form. How do we kind of benefit from that? How do we have this cross-pollination of people moving across and benefiting from the benefit that Maharashtra has and Bombay has as part of the economic engine driving even the entertainment economy from here? I think that's where I think it's important to have incentives, and maybe there could be just offsets, maybe there could be just rebates, maybe there could be just the state portion of GST is refunded. These are various means, and qualifying expenditures can be given, but there are various methods that we can always apply here. But I think it's important to send that message out more than anything else.
Thanks, Uday, for that. And I think there are two very important things. One is that we tend to forget the advertising world when we're in the films. And, how do we actually attract advertising films and everything also, and other promotional films to be shot could also be included. The other point is very interesting, and I'm reading between the lines, Uday, and forgive me for that, is, while the film policy or the film corporation is looking at giving incentives, how do you place Maharashtra within the films? Many corporates do in-film placement. Is that a strategy, that we need to look at as a kind of overall part of the package going forward there, and how do we integrate it? So, thank you. Really, and you talked about global, and you talked about the Life of Pi. So I think it's best at this point if I get in Guneet, Monga. Guneet, you did say that you had some suggestions and ideas here, so you can share them.
Hello, thank you for having me back. I think everybody here has made really strong points. Monika, Nachiket, Uday, just, in my world of doing independent films, I would suggest some very few pointed examples which I have seen. I would say, like, if we take the example of Ramoji Film City, somebody here said that how do we bring Tollywood to Maharashtra and how do we bring everybody else to Maharashtra? I would say, see the example within our country, which is Ramoji Film City, which just is one-stop destination. It has everything. So can we, like, the question I'd like to put up here to everybody considering to, up the infrastructure in Maharashtra, can we have 5 of those in Maharashtra, in Kolhapur, in Vai, in, a land that is available? Can we build those kind of mini film cities which are end-to-end? Which have equipment, which have post, which have DI, which have hotels, which have a government supported infrastructure, and it is not, and they have their airports. You can be in and out of their a mini airstrip there. So is that possible? And that will really expand the kind of productions that the OTT world is also doing, will enable producers to have more space to shoot within Maharashtra. Like the lots, like the Sony Warner Fox lots in US, can we build 5 of those in different parts of Maharashtra that are available? And also, it should not be so insanely crazy to be able to shoot at the airports and docks and trains. And I'm sure, the system has made it a lot easier, what Dilip has suggested, but I still experience it to be very tough when we look at those big production value stuff. I would say, like incentives, Monika made a really good timely incentives. I would say what UP managed to do in the last few years, they literally pulled all the narrative, the Punjab centric narrative that mostly films had, actually got pushed to UP. And that is kind of the soft power also of the industry. I would say a lot of small films also got compensated. So how do we build that kind of compensation so that even the smaller films can have leverage, and it is not just the $10 million spending movies? In terms of post production, I would say, New Zealand, like I still understand when you say that Canada is so close to US and has built a robust filmmaking setup. I would say, New Zealand is really far and it takes a while to get there. But they have also managed to build something which is incredible and have the most amazing VFX. They've given lands for high scale productions. So I would say, like just something like, partnering with something like Vita, which you bring that world class software and structure here that can again increase infrastructure, can increase employment, can increase the quality of people. We still get a lot of VFX work in India because there is a lot of talent here, but we don't get the high end VFX work. We need that kind of machinery, and that is something that you need to look up to the government to be able to provide that and to be able to bring the world class scenario here. So I would give that example of Vita. And another thing, maybe this is not something directly that I do in my business because I'm a producer, but I would say, like somebody did put up, somebody did say a very good point of multiplexes. How do we increase more cinemas? That directly impacts in creating more content. Like there is this one film city that is in Karjat, and I would say like one Jodha Akbar helped build that, which came up in Karjat, but we need many more, and that is also privately run. We need many more. Like we have a film city in Bombay, but that is just lands and open space and a helipad. What we really need is the Ramoji model, and I would really emphasize on that more. It is a model that is there in Hyderabad. We all go to Hyderabad to shoot some songs there, end to end. So it's almost like, why can't we have 5, 6 of those in and around, and we know that we can just go there and shoot. Another thing that I really wanted to say was, now there are producer panels and producer workshops that happen at Cannes, that happen at Toronto, that happen at Sundance. And it's really important for young producers or just producers to be able to attend that. I personally was selected by IFP in New York, a filmmaking program in New York, recommended as an independent producer, and I was funded by a grant in France to be able to attend it. You know, these workshops, just the living cost there, going to Cannes to attend a breakfast. So these are like producer breakfast workshops, and it's like every morning there is a round table of producers, and they are given mentor classes. They're given mentors come in and talk to them, and it's throughout the Cannes every day of the Cannes Film Festival. So you know, individually, if you look at it, something like that can cost you up to 10 lakhs. Going there, staying there, anywhere from 7 to 10 lakhs. Going there, staying there, getting the passes, getting that ticket. But it really would need a larger conversation to be had by the government, because that exposure really informs us on what are our possibilities also. Exposure like that informed me that I could co-produce a lunchbox, I could co-produce a masan, I could build those structures, build those friendships, build that knowledge because of the platform and because of the information that I gained there. So it's really important to have a solid producing course, more and more producing courses, and it's really important to pick up 5-10 producers every year and allow them and sponsor them, to send them and to allow them to attend workshops that happen at a global scale, or even organize these at India, or even online ones. You know, I have been attending Sundance and IFP Independent Film Program online workshops throughout the lockdown. So stuff like that is really important to expand our education and exposure for the younger lot. And I just like to conclude with that, and I hope it's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Guneet, for those excellent, perspective, and I think you've added a lot of value to what could be done here. So before I come back to industry, I noticed that T.C.A. Kalyani had, kind of put on her video. But ma'am, would you like to come in here? And I'm going to come back to industry for a quick rapid fire roundup by saying that give us 2 points that you think that should definitely be there. But before that, Ms. Kalyani, please. You're on mute, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chenoy. Just my 2 bits on the talent or the training ground for the animation and VFX industry. The center is coming up with the National Center for Excellence in Animation Gaming Effects. So we should be in a position to at least position ourselves to have some trained manpower and trainers to train the existing manpower. Sooner than later, I'm hoping it should come through. We will be collaborating with IIT Bombay for that. So, that's just a preview that I'm telling on what the plans for the center are. Incentives, yes, I've already spoken about it. The third issue, which Ms. Monga said about, having workshops for producers. You're all aware that as part of the Film Bazaar, we do have a producers workshop when IFI does this thing. And I mean, this is something for the, industry to take it up, that at the Cannes Film Festival, which FICCI had facilitated for the ministry this time, we had, online sessions and online B2B meetings. So if we could have this as a format, I mean, a takeaway from the Corona has been that the people have got more or less used to this kind of an online interaction and online thing. So if we could have throughout the year, we have producers workshops or some, once a month, maybe FICCI can take it up and have a focused kind of a thing. You have it something on, say, different aspects of filmmaking. You have a workshop of the global industry to come and do it depending on the time things and all. Maybe that can, in the short run, help taking it forward. Aside from that, yes, thank you for having me here. I look forward to the recommendations basically because it will help us in formulating the policy. And yes, we are also going to be coming out with the AVCG policy, national policy. So that is another thing to kind of look forward to. So your inputs would be most welcome for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kalyani. Now, just quickly go around for the rapid fire 2 points. Mr. Rathore, I'll start with you, Dilip. If you can unmute yourself and make your 2 quick points, what you think are required.
Hi. So, I mean, we've spoken all the great stuff about how the things should be done and what changes we need and all. But as my expertise is bringing all those big and small international projects to India, I think the incentives are the main thing which can attract, and also to ease up all the commission stuff. People should be. They think that they shouldn't have any problem. Of course, they have to fill forms and stuff, but if it all can be done very, very seamlessly, I think it'll be a great point for a lot of people to look at India as a very favorable destination for shooting films.
Thanks. Actually, yes.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I think you muted yourself.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for that, Dilip. But before I go into Monika next, what I'll do is there's a question on Facebook. Which said, it's actually from Priyanka Trilok Raina. Wants to know what is the thing for short films, and I think when I alluded to advertising films and short films, does the same kind of thing work, or I leave it to either Vikram or anybody to answer for that, or if there's no answer, then we have to include it in the policy. Vikram, do you want to come in on short films?
Yeah. If there's anybody who approaches us for facilitation for a short film shoot anywhere in India, we're happy to help. We have nodal officers across 36 states. Each state in India, including a union territory, has a nodal officer, and we're happy to connect them.
Thanks.
So that facilitation is available. Dilip, I just want to make one point which we saw from Madhya Pradesh. It's about celebrating the filmmaker. And when we went to MP and our several exchanges there, it's the entire film cell in MP. It's a red carpet to the director moment he walks into the state. Just even if he's location wrecking. And I think that Maharashtra being the hub of cinema, that perception must come in terms of how the state actually celebrates the filmmaker, and then you'll have everything coming together. And I talked about Chaitanya Tamane. It's a great idea to have him. He's really put Marathi cinema on the map, and I think it'll be great if the state were to celebrate him, and many, many more people like him, including producers, were to be kind of put out. MP is a great model for that. I just want
Thank you, Vikramjit. And I know all the states do it. So in the states, when they do investment summits, right? And if you're a speaker or if you're a VIP, you're received at the airport. There's a fast track clearance. There's a car waiting for you, etc., etc. If you can replicate and celebrate film makers and film producers and the whole group of this sector. Yeah. So Monika, could I come in to you for your 2 things that you feel that could be done? You need to unmute yourself here.
Yeah. So Dilip, I really feel that, we've had so many great ideas today and everyone's made very pertinent points. I think what would be really great is to have 2 things. One is an immediate action plan to help people on ground, filmmakers, whether in India, the bigger productions, smaller independent productions, and also the ones that we are trying to attract, globally. If we can really have an SOP for the single window clearance, because I think sometimes really immediate tactical measures can go a long way, because larger things take some time to think through and to really execute. But this is something which could be a very, very immediate action, and that could be taken back from this workshop. And then the second point I would say, because it's not just about the here and now, as we address the tactical things, I think all the key points which have been discussed, which are like really, the canvas of creating Maharashtra as a VFX animation hub, of really, like Nachiket said, of marketing it as a destination. I feel that what should be done, and very happy to support in any way on that, is to really have a robust action plan of that, to have clear roles and responsibilities, because I think this has been a brilliant session of ideas. And we would all be looking to next steps, because as all of us scale in the streaming business also, and commission more productions, scale up the industry overall, I think it would be great to have a very clear action plan.
Thank you, Monika, for that. And I keep coming back to one thing, that we are a young nation. We'll be the youngest in terms of age. How do we, every time I actually drive down into Bombay and I go past the Children Film Society, etc., etc. How do we actually focus on that segment really here? But I think if I can come after Monika, Guneet, you have put on your video, so I'll come to you for your 2 points, and next I'll go to Nachiket, right? Guneet, over to you.
I think you made a really strong point, Dilip. My heart also lies in children film and expanding that, because I think with the OTTs now coming in, there is a huge advantage of telling stories which are traditionally not really told in otherwise an equity market like Bollywood. So just to sum it up, I think we had some great conversation and some great points today. My points would remain as, can we look at creating more film hubs? How do we create a more central film hub? Maybe in Kolhapur, Vai, maybe in anywhere in Maharashtra where there is land and accessibility available. And how do we replicate those studio models, which allows end-to-end production, more like we see Ramoji, we see the studio lots in US. And second, I'm very happy to help build out producer workshops and make it a constant program. And of course, like ma'am said, that COVID has allowed us to be digital and take use of that. I personally conducted a producer workshop, just put out a story on my Instagram, and more than 120 people joined. So that is just me doing it at my own level. But I would say that doing it consistently at the government level will really, really impact and support the creators in a very meaningful way. And they will be able to access the support that everything else at a larger level that is available as they grow in their career. But I think hand-holding people, nurturing them at a younger stage, and building some sort of incentive for first-time filmmakers, because I've seen even when you do these mobile festivals and when you do these short film festivals, it's not even in hundreds, in lakhs the entries come in, and those are the kind of people who want to be filmmakers. Those are the younger lot who all have high-end mobiles and are shooting something. So the aspiration to enter the industry is so high, and how do we nurture them is a whole segment that I'd love to put those questions up, and happy to support and help as and when this pans out. Thank you.
Thank you, Guneet. I think, one of the very well hidden or best kept secrets, if I were to take the RISA tagline of Frames, is that we do this Frame Your Idea, where we have young kids actually meeting production houses and sharing their script ideas. And, when you were talking that, you have hundreds, thousands, lakhs of people coming, that's the most responsive part of also Frames. So I think, it's a very interesting point that you have raised. So thank you for that. Nachiket, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a couple of limited points to make. The first is that I think while we talk about having the benevolent hand of the government invest, we need to also figure out a way by which you can earn money. Therefore, it's equally important to set a target of how much money is the state going to make by inviting global filmmaking. If you're saying we want to have these 5 cities, 7 metro like places, Ramoji Rao, will we make $2 billion? Will we make $500 million? Will we make $5 billion? If $177 billion is the global market size, 2% of that is $3.5 billion. Are we in the stage to go for that and estimate the income so that we are working to a plan? And I'm sure systems can be, I think they will follow if the money is there. If you're going to make $10 million worth of business and you're asking for $500 million of investment, nothing will make sense. So my request for point number 1 is, what is the income estimation after doing all of this, after building all of this? And I think that is very critical. That's point 1. And point 2, which I have of course been belaboring earlier again, is that I think in terms of physical setup, in terms of having good infrastructure, it's a given now. It's not you're playing catch up by doing this. I think our differentiation is the labor arbitrage or the skill that we have in software, and therefore we should focus on it being a VFX destination. And I think work upon that as a USP, in addition to of course the other standard features. And these are my 2 limited points. One is that we need to have a market estimation of income and set a target to work towards so that you can kind of match it to the investment. And the second thing is develop one single competency in the next 5 years, which will make India stand out. My vote for that is VFX. Thanks.
Thank you, Nachiket. Right throughout, you've actually stuck to this kind of theme. So it's great to hear it all over again. And Uday, if I can come for you for the last industry intervention, then yeah.
So I will continue to state that I think when we say simplify, and we say single window, it's not multiple single windows, and it's a genuine single window, so that the hapless producer doesn't have to go from pillar to post. I think that's a very, very important first step. That simplification right through, not just at entry level, but right through hand-holding till the person gets his incentive or whatever he's managed to see it through. It has to be seen through from end to end with that particular production, to see that whether any problems can be ironed out very swiftly and quickly, so that good stories can travel back. I think that's a given, which I think most producers experiences in multiple jurisdictions and within India as well. So I think Maharashtra has to, as you said rightly, catch up on that and to be able to process it very, very quickly. Second, I would continue to say incentives play a very, very important role in the part of decision making. Doesn't matter whether it's a small firm, all the more for a smaller firm, because I think every incentive that they get actually goes to benefiting the production in many ways. So I think incentives actually make that case. We last saw 98 jurisdictions have different kinds of incentives across the world, and within India, at least 14 to 16 states have some form of incentive. What we need to do is to see how we can, take those ideas and implement them locally. A lot of these problems actually that we face from state to state, we have seen extraordinary cross learnings among the states itself when we've seen at the Film Bazaar, and we've seen that how one state has actually learned from the other and how they tackled the particular problem. Those kind of workshops also help, because if you have a particular problem in Maharashtra, it doesn't mean that another state hasn't gone through it. They've actually gone through it and found a solution. And we found that happen in the workshops that NFDC has put together at Film Bazaar. I think that those cross learnings are very, very important. And those cross learnings can again go international in terms of how incentives play a role, how we become part of the Association of Film Commissioners International, how we kind of benefit by putting our flag out there saying that we are open for business. And the third would be promotion. I think destination marketing organizations are there in many of these jurisdictions whose sole purpose is to market the destination, right? And leverage off the film. I think a lot of jurisdictions have put these kind of structures in place. I think we can do that as well. And the fourth would be to measure whatever we're doing. As you said rightly, every dollar that you are spending, it's not spending but investing, that has to be measured to see what is the economic impact, what has been the job creation, what has been the economic impact in the short run. Right? So I think as Vikram put it out there, that if they're putting up a film, FFO, a single window, and lead to $64 million in inflows. I think that only tells us that that's the right direction to go in.
Thank you, Uday, for that. And is there anybody else who wants to make a last comment before I come to Ms. Kalyani and then hand it over to Ms. Manisha Verma? Anybody who has a point? Guneet, do you want to say something or no?
Yeah, I want to say something, but I was just thinking, how do I frame it in this context? I especially would like to say that as a government, and this is maybe to a central government conversation, that we should be more mindful on how we choose our films to send to the Oscars, because that's also a representation of the country. And as a country, we love that award. I think that is another conversation for another day, but I'd just like to put that out there. That having some parameters, that films that actually go to festivals, films that have US distributors, to absolutely just make that note. It's a bit out of context, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Guneet, for that. Anybody else before I go to first Ms. Kalyani and then I'll hand it over to Manisha?
Yeah. Everybody again and make sure that we bring in these methods and improve the infrastructure for local and international filmmakers. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, okay. Yes, we can hear you, Dilip. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So we to make sure that not only the bigger projects and bigger productions, but every film, whether it's a domestic or international, gets the equal amount of importance, and they are, assisted in a same way, so they go back with a great experience, whether it's a domestic filmmaker or an international filmmaker. And we really have a long way to go still, though we were happy about lot been done now, but we still have a long way to go to make sure that really all the process is streamlined. And I do agree with Guneet about our representation of the Indian films for the Oscars or any of the festivals, because sometimes we send some, we have to send some really good films which represent India and culture, which can represent the country in the best possible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rathore. Ms. Kalyani, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Mr. Chenoy. I have nothing further to say. I am with the industry and the Maharashtra, this thing. Whatever best we need to do, we will take it up so that the country goes forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those things. And I would also like to assure both of you, yourself and Manisha ji, that we will fully support and work with you to actually make this transformation happen. Because firmly, I think what COVID has done, before pre-COVID, we are a consumption-led economy. I think during COVID, the creative spirits of everybody has come out. If you just look at the net and look at what's happening, I know you mentioned that there's no content in the films, etc. while you were speaking, but the amount of, if someone develops an algorithm to scroll the web to see, you can get a huge lot of talent for the asking there. But in this creative economy, I think all of us have a role to play to make India not the number one consumption economy, but the number one creative economy. Over to you, Manisha ji, for your concluding remarks, please.
Thank you so much. And I would request all the panelists to please switch on the video for one picture of the screen so that we at least have a part of a proper documentation. So, Mr. Dilip and Guneet ji and Monika, so that the team can take a screenshot of all of you.
I think don't worry about bandwidth, just switch on your video so we can get it there. Just switch on the video, please.
Yeah, just put a video.
Dileep, put on your video.
On us.
No, you can't. You're not visible.
Should be on because it says on here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful, Mr. Chenoy, for very ably moderating this discussion, to Kalyani ICAS from Government of India, who joined at such a short notice and gave her inputs and support. And I was given to understand that Mrs. Kalyani would be leaving the ministry on completion of her tenure. but I think given her rich experience and knowledge in the sector, will continue from the corporation of Mumbai Corporation, Film City Corporation, to keep bothering you with your inputs and guidance as we go along in drafting our policy recommendations. I would like to thank all the esteemed panelists for providing their insights, experiences, and recommendations. I can assure you this is just the beginning of our initial dialogue, and we will continue to engage with you. I will be following you for, because many of the suggestions, given the time constraints, are more recommendatory and in nature. They challenge before the government in implementation is always in the details of how to go about recommendations, and it is there where we'll be having some more consultations with some of you. Thank you so much again for joining in the morning hours for this opening session. I would request you that we will be live on YouTube and Facebook also. And shortly after half an hour, we'll be having a formal inaugural session with Honorable Chief Minister and senior officials from Government of India. So I would request that in case it is convenient, it would be a pleasure that you please join in that program also. I would also welcome you to join if you are interested in having the working link. We would be happy to have you in our sessions as well. We kept it in these deliberations in a very transparent way so that there is an open dialogue with almost 50, more than 50 experts from industry, different stakeholders, and senior officials from key departments of the government, because there are multiple authorities who will be in this conversation for next 3 days. So thank you again and for sparing your time and insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Manisha. I'd also like to thank Leena.
Yeah, we can just thank you all of you. And thank you for the team for facilitating this session. Thank you.